A fractured homecoming in Port Charles. In the quiet corridors of Carly's home, the return of Michael sent ripples of relief, confusion, and inevitable confrontation through Port Charles. Although expected later, Michael's early arrival was met with emotional warmth, especially from Carly, whose embrace lingered not just in maternal joy, but also deep anxiety. His presence, while reassuring, posed new uncertainties, particularly as he seemed far too well informed about the private legal matters unraveling in his absence. The divorce filings, the looming custody battle, the secretive whispers about who should raise Wiley and Amelia, somehow Michael knew it all. Whether through Jason, Jocelyn, or even Diane, someone had made sure Michael was briefed, and Carly's worry began to spiral into a question of trust. But while Carly tried to process this emotional overload, Nina's fear silently grew. Michael's return threatened to dismantle the fragile strategy she believed was tilting custody in Willow's favor. In hushed conversations with Maxie, Nina's thoughts swirled in calculated anxiety. The rules had shifted. Michael wasn't a passive parent anymore, he was ready to fight, and Willow's position was anything but secure. Elsewhere in town, Willow and Drew faced a different wall. Standing at the precinct, they pushed for justice against Jason, whom they accused of unlawfully taking Amelia. But the police weren't biting. Mac, ever pragmatic, reminded them that no real crime had been committed if Michael himself authorized Jason's actions. This legal technicality enraged Drew and devastated Willow. She had counted on the law, on the system, on someone, anyone, validating her fears. Instead, she was left with nothing but Drew's shaky comfort as he drove her to Carly's house, hoping she'd think twice before charging into another heartbreak. But Willow had crossed the threshold of desperation. No plea from Drew could deter her. She needed to face Michael, to speak mother to father, not in courtrooms or through affidavits, but in their shared past. She stepped into Carly's house not with fury, but hope, a fragile thread that Michael immediately severed. Her plea to let the children stay with her fell on deaf ears. Michael, stoic and resolved, held firm to his decision. His eyes may have softened, but his voice did not. The reunion became a battlefront, and Willow realized Michael wasn't just back, he was at war, and she was on the opposite side. Meanwhile, the walls of the Quartermain estate echoed with a different kind of pain. Gio, still reeling from the revelation of his identity, found no comfort in the company of Brooke, Lynn, or Dante. For Gio, the truth was betrayal. Brooke Lynn, the woman who gave him away, now dared to offer explanations he didn't ask for. And Dante, how could he call himself a father when he had no idea Gio even existed? Every attempt at connection was met with silence or anger. Brooke Lynn's voice cracked as she tried to explain her past decision, a choice born of fear and shame. Dante's frustration simmered not at Gio, but at the years he lost, the milestones missed, the presence he should have had. Yet none of it mattered to Gio, who saw only two people who had never wanted him, not really. Their guilt was not a bridge, it was a chasm he couldn't cross. When Gio stormed out, Dante turned his questioning gaze on Brooke Lynn. Why didn't she tell him? How could she bury a truth this profound for over 2 decades? Brooke Lynn stood there, broken, and admitted what she could not undo, that she feared his reaction, his rejection, and the chaos it might bring. But for Dante, the damage was already done. He wasn't just grieving the child he didn't raise, he was reckoning with the trust Brooke Lynn shattered. And then came Chase. Guilt bleeding from every word, he confessed to Dante that he had known part of the truth. Not all of it, he didn't know the full story behind Gio's parentage, but enough to warrant blame. He had suspected, held clues, and stayed silent. His reasons were weak, and he knew it. The apology did little to soothe Dante's sense of betrayal. Every new confession was another cut, another name on the list of those who failed to protect Gio's right to belong. Back at the Quartermain mansion, as tempers flared, another confrontation was reaching its climax. Ned and Olivia, still reeling from the revelations, turned their anger on Lois. Ned's disappointment was almost too calm, his words clipped and deliberate, every syllable laced with heartbreak. Olivia, on the other hand, was blistering. She accused Lois of robbing them all, especially Dante, of years that could never be reclaimed. But Lois, with her Bronx fire, stood firm. She reminded them that judgment was easy from the outside. Until they lived with her fear, her uncertainty, her maternal anguish, they couldn't possibly understand the path she chose. Whether they believed her or not, she had done what she thought was best. And now, that choice had come back with a vengeance. As the sun set on Port Charles, no one felt victorious. Willow sat on the steps outside Carly's house, tears dried but soul hollowed. Drew stood by her, quiet for once, his role as protector feeling painfully insufficient. Gio wandered alone through the streets, lost in a city he once called home, now foreign and full of faces that lied. Brooke Lynn sat in a nursery that no longer belonged to her, her hands trembling over old photographs. Dante stared out at nothing, the sound of the word, "Dad," ringing empty in his ears. And Michael, upstairs, watched his children sleep, unaware that his war had already wounded every heart that loved them. Port Charles had seen many storms, but none like this, one born not from villains or bullets, but from the brutal truth that sometimes, the people we trust the most can hurt us in ways we never saw coming.